Hello and welcome to my hypertrophy lifting series where I record every single set and rep that I possibly can in a given workout. I'm running my Myomax training program. This is my second public program. This is week 4, day 3. It's an accessory day, so I'm hitting like shoulders and arms, and I think there's a little bit of abs towards the end. I always get it mixed up though. And if you guys want to follow along, you totally can do that completely for free since I record everything. But if you guys want to support me or you want the document for yourself so you can write in your own numbers and stuff, it's $10 in the description. I just thought I'd let you guys know, but you do not need it at all if you just want to follow along. But I'm just happy that you're here. So it doesn't matter whether you buy the program or you run it or not. I'm just happy that you're watching, and I hope that I can entertain you and provide some insights along my way. After all, this is a journey not only so that I can become the best lifter and athlete possible, but also so that I can share my knowledge and my experience with you guys so that we can grow stronger and become bigger together. Anyway, enough of that, enough of the intro. Let's get into the lift. And what I'm doing today, I'm starting off with some heavy compound lift for the shoulders. So I love doing a compound lift and some isolation work for each body part. I love to have a little bit of combo of each, and then I like to include some multiple rep ranges. After all, that is periodization in a nutshell. It's just changing some training variables over time. It can be either weekly or monthly or like in each block. Like you could change from a hypertrophy program to a strength training program. I do a little mixture of changing the training variables, but it is a true, this program is a true 9-week hypertrophy program with very high volume. So what I'm trying to say is this is kind of like a moderate rep range, and then we'll be doing a little bit of a higher moderate rep range when we get into some more isolation work. But anyway, I'm actually keeping the weight the same. It's 245s and a 5 on each side, just because last time it was really challenging, but I got 8 each set. So I think as long as you are at least trying and putting as much effort in at the gym as you possibly can, and hopefully you're progressing in some way, then you're doing it right, and you're probably gonna be succeeding over time. So what I'm gonna be doing is aiming for at least 9. So I'm gonna be trying to at least increase the repetitions per set. Without further ado, let's just get into it, shall we? One more to beat it. I always try for an extra rep, even though it's kind of rare that I get one when the set is really difficult like that. That's probably like an RP, which is rated perceived exertion, of a 9.5 or 10, just because I couldn't get any more. And a little form tidbit just for setting up the machine that I like to deploy is I make sure that the seat is high enough so that the machine isn't cutting me short on my range of motion, because if the machine is too low, then by the time I get the full range of motion, the pad on the machine on each side is going to be hitting the metal, and that's totally going to shortchange you. Whenever you can, if your goal is hypertrophy, I think that you should be trying to enact the full range of motion in a given lift. The only times when I would say that it's acceptable or encouraged not to is if you're training for strength and you're focusing on weak points. So if you noticed on that last rep, I got stuck like midway, and and it slowed down to almost a screeching halt, but I ended up like overcoming it. If I were really focusing on my shoulder press strength, then I may set up some pins and just work on pressing from that point, just to work on the shoulder strength in that portion of the lift, in the tricep strength, because it's a secondary mover. So that's just something to think about if you're goal is strength oriented, or if someday you want to become stronger at a given lift. And it transcends into every lift. Like if you're having issues like midway with your squat, you may start with the rack, like the pins a little bit lower, and then just press from there. The same deal with a bench press. You can get blocks. And I actually used to own some blocks like this, where you can put it on your chest, and then you raise and you just hit it on the block, and then you explode, just to work on a given range of motion. And I think that, you know, strength and hypertrophy are obviously very integrated and correlated, and it's hard to separate the two entirely, if not impossible. So I think that, you know, everybody should eventually maybe try out some strength movements. I mean, not strength movements, but like a strength training program, or write their own program, just because I think that the end result of that is only going to enhance your hypertrophy work anyway. Anyway, let's just get to set number 2. I'm sure that you guys are sick of me talking so much, so let's go. One of the most notorious silent killers of people's gains in the gym actually have to do almost nothing with things actually in the gym, but all to do with things outside of the gym. And ultimately comes down to comparison. There's a saying as old as the human race, which is, at least I think it's that old, comparison is the thief of joy. And I full-heartedly agree with that. Whenever you're like scrolling through social media or something, you see somebody that's more fit than you, more jacked than you, whatever it may be, your automatic just instinct is to compare yourself to them. And when you do too much of that, then you stop focusing on yourself and you start focusing on outside things like, oh, that person's like way better looking, way more jacked, blah, 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 blah. And you start going down this negative rabbit hole, which completely derails your like your train and your motivation and everything from happening the way that it probably should be happening. And it can completely mess with your progress in the gym because it's taking you outside of your body, outside of your own journey, and putting it out there. And ultimately, every single person's fitness journey is an individualized and personal experience that only they should be able to master. Not every one workout works for everybody. Not every dieting hack works for everybody. Everybody's different. And therefore, when you're comparing yourself to others, it's going to strip away the joy that you have from your own progress. And it's just going to derail that train. So that's just something that I think about quite often. And it's forced me to just really pay more attention to what I'm doing. And, you know, that's for better or for worse. I think it's for much better, because if I'm focusing way too much on somebody else, then I know for a fact that it just doesn't end well. It actually increases the likelihood of me missing workouts, which is not good. Anyway, let's get this third set out of the way. I hit 9 for the first 2, which I'm super happy about. Let's make set number 3 a carbon copy of the first 2. I think that would be ideal, and it would be a real win for today. I just need to do it one more. Come on. Couldn't have gone even a half rep even if I tried. say what you will about grinding repetitions like that, but there's no way that they aren't beneficial for long-term lifting success, as long as you're not injuring yourself or something. It just promotes resilience, and or you really need that resilience and that strength whenever you're approaching heavy lifts. So I think it just helps you. All right. Next up, we're getting into a tried and true bicep exercise, the barbell variation of a bicep curl, the barbell curl. Well, it's actually the easy bar curl, and I've spoke endlessly about why I prefer that, but at the end of the day, a curl is a curl. Whenever you are just bending your elbow joint like this, because that's the function of the bicep ultimately, is to do this and then do like some extra supination, some rotation of your forearm like this. And that's really the two functions of the bicep. So whenever you can mimic that, you are going to be training it to the utmost extent. And then after that, you're really just getting into pennies over the dollar type of deal, just icing on the cake. Like it doesn't matter too much. A lot of just changing up bicep exercises is just to break up the monotony and keep things fun and exciting, and to, you know, kind of shock your muscles. That's such a buzzword, but it really holds true with training like this. If you're just doing the same exact exercise in the same way until the end of time, then eventually you're going to stall out, and just mixing it up is going to do it's going to do so many great things for you. So, you know, where I'm kind of going with that is, while I'm doing this exercise, I'm also going to be doing another exercise later, and I think I'm doing like a total of 4 different bicep exercises across the week, which may kind of sound like a lot, but since I'm doing them so consistently, there's not too much of a variance from like week to week in terms of like each day 3, I start with this for biceps, you know, then I do like I think it's the Beijing curl. Then next week we're doing like incline dumbbell curls. Then we're doing like cable bilateral curls. So, you know, a little bit of variation is key. Too much isn't. Anyway, let's just get into it. I'm going up 10 pounds on this from 90 to 100, which is substantial. 100, I mean, like a 10-pound jump isn't that like the craziest, most unheard of thing ever, but now that I'm finally at 100 pounds, it's kind of messing with my mindset a little bit. Right now, I feel like I can't lift this weight just because of the number. However, I know that I've earned this. I know that I've been working up towards this since the beginning of the program, and even before, because I was doing this exercise in my hypertrophy 1.0 program too. So I know that I've earned it. So I think that for this given lift, I'm going to try and shut that voice off, and instead I'm just going to let my body talk for me about that. I think that sometimes you just got to trust that your body can take care of it. Last time I did 90 from 10. We're going to try to get around there, but honestly, as long as I get around 8 or more, then I'll be happy. Okay. I'm gonna do some cheat reps now. All right, and I spoke about this before, but I like to flip around and do some wrist curls as well, just for some additional forearm work. I've been forgetting to do it recently, which is a bummer. So I'm going to be more deliberate about not missing. I think I mentioned that in my last accessory day. About 10 there. All right, so I'm very happy with that. I mean, I didn't get 10, so it wasn't like a win-win in terms of progressive overload. Like I didn't progressively overload reps and weight, but that's okay. You know, I went up in weight. I lost a couple of reps, but I think it's worth it, because 10 reps with 4 cheat reps is kind of a lot, even for a bicep curl. And I think that 8 at 100 pounds is perfect. So I'll just stick to this for at least another week. I won't be going up next time. It'll be kind of like what I did with the shoulder press, where the weight's heavy enough, I'll keep it there. And I'll just try and add weight, repetitions for low weight. And before I get into set number 2, I just want to break down something for you guys. And this is something that I've talked about in the past, but I think it's worth reiterating. And that's a little bit of a simple form cue for bicep curls. And that's that whenever I'm doing a bicep curl, I'm making sure that I'm flexing my glutes. This is going to stabilize my hips and my lumbar spine as well. So it's going to prevent from that pressure of like hyperextending and getting a lot of pressure on my low back. You don't want to injure your low back. It's a very prone area to injure. So that's why when you flex your glutes, you're limiting that. And you're also limiting swinging as well, because a lot of people swing on their bicep curls without even knowing it a lot of the times. I'm sure I have a little bit of a sway, but not a swing. So I'm really focusing in on flexing my glutes and then stabilizing my abs by kind of like putting some pressure in here too. And then at the bottom of each rep, I'm kind of flexing my triceps. And by flexing my triceps, that's going to be fully extending my elbow. And when your elbow is fully extended, then your bicep is fully under stretch. They're antagonistic. And then vice versa, if your bicep is fully flexed, then your tricep is at more of a stretch. So by doing that, I'm completing the full range. Then by going all the way up and flexing the biceps and even getting a little bit of humeral flexion, I'm also completing the repetition as well. So just by going like that, flexing, going all the way up, flexing, and kind of getting a little bit of, bringing your humerus up, this bone. You're also you're completing the rep as well, because I forgot to mention, but it's also a function of the biceps. So by doing that, you're gonna be as stable as possible, and you're gonna get that full range of motion that you really badly want in something like this. Let's get to set number 2. All right, now for a few cheats. Talking about not saving the lower back by doing cheat reps. Like, I'm only doing a few of them. I just like to do them so that I can really squeeze out as much time under tension as I possibly can. And by slowing down that eccentric phase, you're enacting a ton of muscle damage, which is ultimately what you want. That's the name of the game with hypertrophy training. It's about signaling that adaptation. You want to do enough damage to where your body's like, damn, we gotta freaking heal this bitch up. And then, when it's healing, it actually hyper responds and over heals, and that's where that muscle hypertrophy occurs. And hypertrophy is just the opposite of atrophy. Hypertrophy means the enlargement, while atrophy means the shrinking. So ultimately what training does is it's an adaptation, or it's signaling, it's causing damage and then signaling an adaptation response in order to hypertrophy the muscle fibers. So anyway, you can definitely do that by heavy eccentrics for sure. I'm low-key thinking about having like a dedicated forearm day. Maybe that'll be like my day 7 of the gym. I know 7 days is very daunting to hear about. Like, people are like, oh, hey, you gotta have a rest day, blah, blah, blah. Well, I do agree, like, you definitely need a rest day from time to time. I don't think that the definition of rest day always has to be completely taking off from the gym. I think that if you want, your rest day could be just going in and hitting some smaller muscle groups that aren't going to cause a lot of fatigue and recoverability issues, because that's ultimately what you're trying to achieve with a rest day. What's a rest day? You're just trying to recover as much as you can. So as long as you can still recover, then why not do a little bit of work? Like you could do a little bit of forearm work, maybe some neck training, you know. I used to do a ton of that. I'm not doing as much anymore. I could do that. Do some like tib anterior training, extra calf training, extra arm training, extra ab training, whatever it may be. Just make sure that you're not hitting like a heavy set of squats or deadlifts or good mornings or like heavy barbell bench press or something like that, because that is not a rest day. But I think that if you're hitting the smaller muscle groups, you can still categorize that as a rest day for sure, for sure. Let's flip the angle a little bit. Over some cheats. Now time to flip the script. I definitely recommend you guys trying out supersetting forms, because I feel like a lot of people tend to neglect their forearm training almost entirely. And I think that it's very important. I think that if you just have big arms and small forearms, you're gonna look all imbalanced and weird. And honestly, like, I think that my arms are bigger than my forearms, but I don't think it's so disproportionate where I'm gonna have some issues, but I don't want it to get to that point. So that's why I'm including this. Okay. Next up, I'm getting into some unilateral cable tricep extensions. So just going like this, or tricep pushdowns rather. And then I'm going to be supersetting that with some unilateral lateral flies for the shoulders. And I love supersetting muscle groups that aren't related to each other, just because if you're supersetting the same muscle group, then you're going to run into some recovery issues, you know, in the middle of that superset. Like if you're doing a chest fly superset with some chest pressing, then ultimately the chest press is going to be derailed just because of that fly variation. But when you're supersetting either antagonistic muscle groups or muscle groups that have nothing to do with each other, like these two exercises, then you don't run into that issue. And all you're really, and you know, the new benefit is just that you're saving time with no real downsides, besides that it's a little bit more challenging. But that's the trade-off that you're making. But before I get into it, I just wanted to discuss the topic of laziness in the gym, because it's something that's very near and dear to my heart, especially regarding something like a leg day. In the past, you know, I'd be like, you know what, I'll go to the gym. However, I'm not going to try that hard. And when I'm at the gym, I would cut my sets. It would be like I would have programmed in like 4 sets of squats, and I'd cut it down to 2 sets that were half-assed. And I'd be like, oh, well, since I already squatted, that counts for something, doesn't it? But that couldn't be nearer to the truth. I mean, further from the truth, because really you got to be giving your all day after day. So enough with that wimpy mindset. When you go into the gym, you need to be ready to attack the weights. Now, you don't need to go in like full throttle, but when you're actually there, when it counts, that's when you got to put in the work, when it counts. When you're actually there and you're confronting that barbell, when you're confronting the weight, when you're confronting the machine, that's when you need to really show the weights in the world what you got. That's what it comes down to. And anyway, enough of that. I'm sticking the same weights because last time it was a pain in the ass. So I'm just gonna try and beat the repetition. I think I got between 8 and 10. So let's try and beat that, okay? Okay, so I got 10, and that was either matching last time or it was a little bit more. Other way, I would have preferred 11, but I'm running into the issue where it's so heavy for me that I'm having a hard time gripping it. I think I'm gonna have to invest in some chalk, or I'll have to start using a handle on this. Fuck. Okay, so right there, actually, I don't know if you noticed that, but I changed up my grip near the end. And instead of just gripping right here, this little ball, I actually gripped the cable. I thought it was gonna hurt, but it actually didn't feel that bad. So that may be a little hack for that exercise. If you guys are having trouble gripping it, try gripping the cable instead of the actual little ball thing. Anyway. You guys have been following along, you'll know that I've been stuck at the same weight for the lateral raises for the longest time, for at least 2 or 3 weeks. And this week is no different, obviously. However, I swear to God, it's starting to get easier. It's not as a pain when I hit the 12th rep. So I think that maybe next time it might be time to go up a little bit. That's the thing with smaller muscle groups like that, especially in isolation. You can never put up nearly as much weight as you want, you know, especially the deltoids. It's a ball and socket joint, so it's inherently less stable. And when you're gaining the benefit of mobility and sacrificing stability, you have a higher injury risk and the less ability that you have to actually produce a lot of force transfer and strength as a result. But the trade-off there is that we can do this. You can move in every plane. So it's very mobile, you know, which is great for just dynamic movements and stuff, but it's not ideal for, you know, strength work like that. Anyway, I feel like I'm good to go for this next set. Well, let's just get into it. I mean, cable stuff, especially with supersets, you don't need as much rest since you're inherently resting while you're doing the other lift. That actually hurts a little bit. Maybe it's not a hack. Look. Okay, that's it. I'm either investing in some chalk or I'm using the handlebars next time. Sometimes you gotta make a little changes to your program in order to get the best results. You're always doing the same thing and you're stagnant and you don't change, then you're not gonna get very far. Shit. All right, right into flies. Come on. Kind of wanted to briefly discuss the topic of getting too attached to certain exercises, because you see it online. The videos where you're like tier listing, ranking like the best shoulder exercises from, you know, S to F. They perform magnitudes better than almost any other fitness content. That's because people love to rank things and they love to know what the absolute best like exercise is. But I really don't think it's that simple. Of course, there's like averages where some exercises may be more suited to strength work and some exercises may be suited more towards hypertrophy work, but everyone is so different. Everyone has different preferences. You really got to play around for yourself. Sure, you can use those tier lists as kind of a guide, like kind of an educated guess in which direction to go. Like, you know, we know that a seated dumbbell shoulder press is going to accrue a lot of range of motion and a lot of stability and a lot of time under tension and really focused mechanical tension, which is great. That's all great. And that's why, you know, on paper, like that exercise is a beast. And it may trump something like the standing military press because you're involving leg drive, you're involving, you know, the need for abdominal support and core support and all these things into the lift, which makes it more athletic and probably less hypertrophic as a result. So you can kind of pick and choose depending on that, but that doesn't mean that you know, you may, like one person may excel way more at the military press than they do at the seated military press, and they may get way more gains. So you really got to play around with it for yourself in order to figure it out. It's just something that I think about probably all the time, because I'm constantly, especially in my earlier days of lifting, I was looking for that end all be all king of exercises. Put in a Google search, what is the best exercise for, you know, back growth or something like that. All right, guys, I'm sure you're sick of me talking, so let's just cut to the last set of this exercise. Okay, so unfortunately the sad truth of today is I thought that I charged my camera to 100%, but apparently when I took it off the charger, I don't think that I powered it off. So when I walked in here, I probably only had like 35% of juice. And I love my camera so much, but it has a terrible battery life. What I'm trying to say is that I'm at like 2% right now, so it's gonna die at any moment. So in case I don't have a chance to say goodbye, thank you guys so much for watching week 4, day 3. I'll see you tomorrow for week 4, day 4. However, I'm just gonna keep going until it shuts off because I want you guys to see as much of my workout as possible. And in fact, I'll tell you right now what I'm finishing with. When we're doing the KO Beijing curl, superset, unilateral superset with the standing bilateral tricep extension. I believe that there's 2 sets of those. But then I'll be finishing off with some abs. I think we got like the cable crunch with the upright rows, and then some captain chair leg raises. I think 3 sets and then 2 respectively. So we have, you know, like 7 sets left on today. So, you know, kind of a decent amount, but they're all like relatively easier, like pump and fluff type of stuff since it is an accessory day. So that's what I'll be finishing with. However, I am just gonna keep going until my battery dies, like I said. Hopefully it's like an iPhone battery and that last 1% is comparable to the last 20%. That would be fantastic. And if that were the case, and if that is the case, then who knows, maybe I will be able to finish the whole workout on camera. You know, I don't want to leave you guys with just a complete cutoff for the video. I'd rather do just some formal goodbyes like I just did. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate from the bottom of my heart. Every single one of you that shows support on these videos means the world to me. And so thank you so much for watching. This is going to conclude week 4, day 3. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for a true upper body day. I'll make sure that my camera is fully charged. And in fact, I may invest in a battery, like an extra battery, just so that I don't run into this issue ever again, because it really sucks. You know, I want to be able to give you guys the best content and show as much of my training as I possibly can. Like I say in the beginning of every video, I want to be able to record every single set and rep that I possibly can. And stuff like this shouldn't be happening, especially after, like, I'm getting more and more used to this stuff. I shouldn't be running to stuff like this, but you know, it's all learning experience. It's all a work in progress constantly. So anyway, see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.